Alright, so Goku meets Superman in Metropolis, episode 9. So let's get straight to it. A quarter of Central City was in ruins and buildings were in rubble, and the streets were littered with broken glass and debris, while civilians were being evacuated from burning buildings and news helicopters were beginning to show up. And in the very center of all the devastation was a teenager in torn orange clothing from a battle. Goku was looking down at his hands, still shaking with adrenaline from the fight. He was replaying the events that had just transpired in his head. He mutters under his breath, "I had to finish him. I had to, or he would have destroyed everyone in this city." Goku's trance is broken when he is approached by Kami, and the team could see that this man looked eerily similar to Piccolo. Kami broke the silence and told Goku that he had done well as a young warrior, but his journey was far from over, and that he needed to follow him so he could learn more. Goku looked at Kami confused before he asked the Green Elder to identify himself, and he also wanted to know why he looked just like Piccolo. Kami simply replied by telling him that he would explain everything in time, but now he needed him to follow him. Goku decided to trust him, got a good vibe off of him, and agrees, but tells Kami that he needs to check on his friends first. Kami understands and puts his hand on Goku's shoulder and teleports them to the outskirts of the city, where Talia and Nissa Al Ghul were waiting. They were relieved that Goku had survived. They said in unison that they knew that Goku would be victorious, and they were filled with pride in their brother-like figure. Goku smiled weakly and told the pair that he had to put Piccolo to death, and Talia placed her hand on his face and moved his head up so he could see her face, and she told him, sometimes blood must be spilled for the greater good, and today he had proven himself to be a true warrior that slayed a demon. Nissa tells them both that a new threat will show up eventually and that the League of Assassins must regroup for repairs in the organization. Goku says his goodbyes to the both of them and says he must go to train with Earth's Guardian, and the sisters remember their father's stories about Kami, and they agree with his decision, and they approve of it as well. Talia says he should go, but he shouldn't forget that he will always have a home with them if he needs any assistance. And with that, Goku and Kami depart, and the sisters get back on their aircraft and exit as well, leaving Central City to begin its rebuilding process. Not soon after, Superman arrived on the scene, looking down at the carnage down below, wondering what happened, because he had just returned from saving some space explorers who were heading for an asteroid belt, and he arrived back to see an emergency alert in Central City, but arrived later on to see the destruction. So he decided the least he could do was help get the people to safety that were trapped under heavy debris from the carnage that had ensued. And when he was about to go back to Metropolis, he saw new camera footage of the battle that had taken place before he got there, and he was surprised to see his little brother Goku in the recording, teaming up with some merman and a man dressed up as a bat. But he didn't know how the fight ended, because after Batman activated his sound weapon, the camera was destroyed by the vibrations. We then cut to a teen Wonder Woman who was sitting down in a diner, aggravated because she had finally tracked down Barbara Minerva, who had stolen the dagger from the Amazons. But she lost her target once her enemy embraced the cheetah curse and escaped. And as she was waiting on her food, the TV was on and revealed to her the same footage Superman was watching. And she recognized her friend Goku fighting against some green demon that was destroying the city. And she could only hope that her close friend came out of this engagement victorious. And a couple of days after the incident, Batman was in his lair deep in an investigation on Goku. After the event that transpired in Central City, he was analyzing footage of the battle to get a better understanding of Goku's martial arts and abilities. His butler Alfred makes an entrance with a tray of tea, saying, "Master Wayne, you've been at this for hours, and that it might be time for you to take a break." Batman remained focused on this footage and told Alfred that he couldn't afford to rest because this kid on screen was too dangerous, and there might be other metahumans like him that will pop up and decide to kill. And Goku could become the most dangerous of them all because not only does he have superhuman abilities, he was also trained by Raj Al Ghul himself, and he was already shown that he has the ability to kill. So I need to know everything about him, but I'm not finding much. Alfred sighs and begins to exit and says, "Well, perhaps you could consider that he's just a boy that had to make a very hard decision in the heat of battle, Master Bruce." But Batman doesn't reply, and he puts his data into a file labeled contingency plans. Another side of the world, back on Kondak, the egg that fell from the sky began to crack open, and Black Adam was watching the hatch intently as a small green figure emerged and revealed himself to the king. It was the junior spawn of the former Demon King Piccolo. The young Namekian looked at his observer with a mix of malice and curiosity. Black Adam smirks and tells the young terror that he will be his mentor, and together they will reshape the world, and a sinister smile appears on both of their faces. Goku had begun his training on the lookout and was determined to become stronger than ever before, but Kami told his pupil that strength was not just about physical power. It was about balance, discipline, and understanding everything that was around him, and understanding everything that was around him. So Goku had much to learn, and then for a few years Goku trained vigorously with Kami and Mr. Popo. In those years, Goku learned about meditation, ki control, and energy conservation, physical conditioning, and martial arts mastery, spiritual awareness, mind and body connections with emotional control, life lessons, and wisdom, mental resilience, battle strategy, like analyzing the weaknesses of his opponents and predicting opponents' movements. Even though he learned some of these things with Raj Al Ghul as well, he was just even more so getting into his bag. And the days seemed to fly as Goku soaked up all the knowledge until he was almost 17 years old, and Kami believed that he was ready to go back down to the normal world and wait for Piccolo to reveal himself in time, so he could put an end to the world's threat once and for all. So he bid his farewell to his sensei and hopped off the lookout, heading back down to Metropolis. The current skies of Metropolis were extremely dark and cracking the electricity as Superman faced off against Livewire, the newest metahuman in his rogue gallery that had the ability to control and manipulate electricity. The city was in complete blackout because the power grids were being drained by Livewire, who was sucking the city for fuel. Pause. Superman hovered in the air with his cape billowing as he began to try to reason with his opponent, telling Livewire that this wasn't the way and that she didn't have to do this, but Livewire's body continued to glow with more electricity, and she told Superman that she was going to siphon this city of everything it has and send Metropolis back to the Pilgrim days. And then she unleashed a massive bolt of electricity which made Superman dodge and weave through the air of the energy, and that's how this battle raged on, and Superman was trying to keep this conflict contained from causing too much collateral damage while he subdued Livewire. And meanwhile, Lois Lane was grounded and reporting the situation on an old-time camera that wasn't affected by the electrical currents. She was crouched behind a car with the camera capturing the action, and Superman was pleading for Lois to get to the scene because it was too dangerous. But Lois was as fearless as ever, and she wasn't going to miss Metropolis' story of the year. But the battle continued to intensify, and Livewire zaps were becoming more erratic, and she sent a surge to a nearby construction site, which caused equipment to shudder and groan until a steel beam from the upper floors dropped toward the ground, where Lois stood as Superman's eyes widened in horror as he noticed too late. He shouted for Lois and dove towards her, but was blasted back by bolts of electricity, which meant that he wouldn't be able to make it in time to save her. But just as the beam was about to crush the woman beneath, a blur of orange and blue appeared out of nowhere and caught the beam with one hand and held it effortlessly above his own head. And Lois was stunned as Goku grinned down at her, offering her hand with a lighthearted voice despite the current dire situation, which had the reporter blinking in disbelief before her reporter instincts kicked in as she asked the 17-year-old who he was, and Goku dropped the beam gently and scratched his head and told her that his name was Goku and that he was just passing through until he sensed trouble in the mist, and he was happy to arrive when he did so he could save him. Superman landed beside them with relief on his face, saying, "I can't believe it's you, Goku." Goku turned to Superman and his grin widened before he began to say, "Long time no see, Clark." But before he could get it out, Superman had quickly put his finger over his mouth, shushing him and telling him not to say his name out in public. Lois' brow furrowed at the pair, and Superman decided to introduce his brother to the reporter. He told Lois that Goku was an old friend of his, and then he told Goku that Lois was a reporter for the Daily Planet. Goku told her that it was nice to meet her, and Lois thanked him for saving her life, but the hero shrugged it off and said it was nothing. He just saw someone who needed help, and then he looked back at his brother and asked him, so what's up with the angry electric lady? And Superman gave him the rundown of who the villain was and what the situation was, the dire situation was as well. Goku cracked his knuckles and told Superman he was ready to help because he had been training for moments like this, and Superman hesitated, unsure if he should get his younger brother involved in his danger. But he decided to trust in his brother's ability. He accepted his help, but told him to stay on guard because Livewire was dangerous. Goku jumped up on top of a rooftop, which got Livewire's attention, and she turned to face him with a smirk, before tauntingly asking him if he was another freak playing superhero. And Goku smiled back at the surgeon female, and then he told her that he never really wanted to be a hero, and that was more of his brother's dream, but he couldn't sit back and let her do what she was doing. The villainess laughed and asked him what exactly was he going to do to stop her, and Goku replied that all he had to do was distract her long enough for Superman to get the water truck. And before she could process the admission, Superman dumped a copious amount of water on her, which messed with her conductivity momentarily, and Goku took a rubber tire and threw it at Livewire, which knocked her back into a park pond until she was unconscious, and Superman melted some rubber around her to cut her off her conductivity completely. And with her power suppressed, she was finally subdued, and the city began to calm, and the power grids began to restabilize. Superman complimented his performance, and Goku told Superman that he didn't even get to show him how much stronger he had gotten from all of his hard training. Superman told him that he was sure that he would see his strength sooner than later, but he was just glad to finally have his brother back in his life. As they walk, so the dust settled in Metropolis, and Superman and Goku were atop a rooftop talking about each other, and Superman told Goku that he had grown over the years, and Goku said he didn't grow enough because Clark was still taller than him, and they both laughed at the remark. And then Goku asked his older brother if he was going to introduce him to Lois as Clark Kent, as his long-lost brother. Superman told him that they could do that later, but now they should go back to the farm because their parents would love to see both of them together again. As they walk in the door, their mom hugs the both of them, and their father compliments them on how much they've grown. And Goku told them that he missed them. In the house, they had a big feast, and their conversation flowed with ease as Goku told stories about his adventures. And the evening wore on, the conversations got on lighter topics about back when Goku and Clark used to be on the farm growing up, and they talked about the lessons they learned from their parents, and it was a heartwarming reunion full of laughter, love, and old times. After the family gathering, Superman took Goku to his apartment in Metropolis, and the pair were currently on the top of the buildings watching the sun set over the city. As they gazed at the bustling streets below, the two had been catching up by talking about their previous adventures and villains they faced, and Clark had just finished telling Goku about the time he fought a being from the fifth dimension that could even warp reality itself when Goku's communicator began to buzz. Goku pulled out his device from his pocket, and he saw the caller on the screen was his old friend Lex Luthor. Old friend and sometimes boss Lex Luthor. He answered the phone and excitedly greeted his friend, saying, "What's up, Lex?" And Clark's ears perked up at the mention of that name, but he didn't interrupt the conversation, so he pretended to focus on the horizon, but he was inwardly listening intently. Lex's smooth voice was heard as he told Goku that it had been a while, and that he had saw his little escapade in Central City and was impressed as always. Goku simply told him that he did what he had to do, and Lex told his employee that he shouldn't be so modest, but now he was going to tell him why he called him. To put it simply, he wanted to reward Goku with an upgraded jetpack that was more durable and faster for his loyalty and hard work, and Goku was excited and told him to meet at his new LexCorp building tomorrow morning. Right, and then he ended the call. The call ends, and Clark asked Goku who that was on the phone, even though he already knew the answer. And Goku told him. And Goku said that he was talking to his boss, and he was going to get a new jetpack. Clark asked him who exactly was his boss, and Goku said he was Lex Luthor, and that he was a really smart guy who pays him from time to time to collect space rocks, and he's worked with him and for him for years, And that sentence made Clark's heart twitch, and a chill ran down his spine, because he had been crossing paths with Lex numerous times over the years, and that dude was a manipulative and dangerous man with crazy ambitions. And the idea that Goku was working with him was definitely unsettling. Superman paused, but he told his brother that Lex was not a good person, and that he had done a lot of bad things, and he shouldn't be trusted. And these statements confused him, because Lex had always been straight with him and gave him equipment and money that helped him out over the years whenever he needed it. So he told Clark that Lex wasn't as bad as he thinks he was, and Superman sighed at Goku's nature, which is both a strength and a weakness. So he just told him to be careful working with Lex, and that if he ever asked him to do something that doesn't feel right, he should just walk away. Goku nodded, but was puzzled at the statement, and replied that he would keep that in mind. And then he jumped off the building, and Clark could only hope that his brother would see who Lex truly was sooner than later. The next morning, Goku arrived at LexCorp's new building, which was now a towering skyscraper that served as headquarters for Lex's tech empire. Goku whistled with appreciation and then went inside the building. The place was full of employees in sharp suits with faces buried in screens of all kinds, and Goku felt out of place in his orange gi, but he didn't really care that much, and walked up to the nearest desk, where she told him to meet Lex on the top floor in his private lab. Goku stepped into a massive laboratory filled with cutting-edge technology. Screens full of complex data and humming machines surrounded him. And Lex was in the center of the room, and the two smiled at each other and extended out their hands. Lex told Goku that it was good to see him again, and Goku said he felt the same way. And then he told Lex that his building looked amazing, and Lex was very proud of his accomplishments, and told him that it was a result of hard work and innovation. But today wasn't about him. He brought his friend here so he could get his jetpack upgrade. So they walked to the workbench. Lex asked Goku where he had been, because he fell off the radar, and the teen told him that he had been training with Kami on controlling his life force. And Lex's eyes gleamed with interest at the name, because he knew that Kami was the Japanese term for God, and responded with a joke and saying, "Welcome back to the world of us mortals." And Goku said that his training was complete. So they make it to the bench, and Lex hands over the pack, and Goku can't wait to test it out. And Lex tells Goku that he's been a very valuable asset to him and his plans. Lex placed his hand on his friend's shoulder and told him that he had one more thing he wanted to discuss with Goku. He told him that the world was changing and new threats were emerging all over, and there could be an alien threat that could destroy their world someday. And Lex told Goku that he was assembling together a team of individuals that could take down these superhuman freaks that put humanity in danger, and he wanted Goku to be a part of it, because with Goku's strength and his resources, they can make a big difference. But Goku declined his offer and told Lex he's not really interested in being a superhero. But if he ever needed any assistance on a mission, he would be happy to help him from time to time. And Lex was disappointed but told Goku to think over his offer. As Goku exited the building with his new pack equipped, Lex watched him from the window of his office, and when he was out of sight, he walked on to his phone, dialed a number, and told the people on the line that it was time to test the Legion of Doom. And then Lex ended the call with a sinister smile on his face. Soon these so-called superheroes will be humbled. Goku soared through the skies of Metropolis in his new jetpack, but as he flew over the city, his sharp eyes caught a ruckus down below, and a figure crashed through some glass, raining shards on the sidewalk, and his instincts kicked in, so he dove down to see what was going on. And when he landed, he saw a familiar face with scuffed armor and a tilted tiara standing back up out of the debris, and then her face turned to see the eyes of her friend, and then Goku said the name of his friend he recognized, Diana? ? So yeah, that's where we're going to end it out for this. It's going to be in the episode now. Let me know what you guys think. I tried to do a little format on my narrating. Made it sound more like a book. Let me know if you guys rock with it or what. So I'm going to head on out. Peace.